रंग चढ़े खुद का ही खुद पे बच्चों को तू ऐसे बढ़ा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
रोशन हो ये नन्हे दिए इन्हें तू रोज सजा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
जादू है ये जीने दे जरा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
गिरने दे बढ़ने दे उनको पास आए तो गले भी लगा,
बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
नई ये दुनिया नया आसमां,
बच्चों को बचपन से ही सिखा,
खेलते खेलते साथ निभा।
ऐसे तो उनका जीवन सजा।
ये बचपन है त्योहार हर दिन का, ये पहचान ले और रोज मना। बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना। अरे अब तो मना ले यारा।
Hello, everyone, and good evening to today. Today is a very, very special day for a lot of us. It is the celebration of the first songs. It is a celebration of songs, of singing, of lullabies, and of acts of care. I'm Varun, and I'm going to be your host for today, along with Anusha from Billion Readers and Zubin from Pratham Education Foundation. For the next minute and a half to begin, all I would like you all to do is to watch the video that we're going to show you in silence and just feel whatever emotions you have to feel. Let that sit with you. Just take this minute and a half to watch this beautiful video we have to show. You know, when I heard this lullaby for the first time, I felt so much care, so much warmth, so much love. And for the first time, I found myself seeing myself in the place of the mother and singing this lullaby to my little nephews and nieces. And, you know, it really made me realize how lullabies and every song that we sing to children is an act of care. But not just that, it also made me realize how children, when they hear these songs, they also associate spaces with it. So then lullabies and these songs also become spaces of care. And that's such a beautiful and different way to think of lullabies. And so that's how the First Songs project was born. The First Songs project began as a Bachpan Manao collab action with Billion Readers, with Accept Foundation, Pratham Education Foundation, and EduWe Foundation. And the Bachpan Manao is an initiative to celebrate the first 3,000 days of childhood and to recognize the abundance that exists within these early years of childhood. And these lullabies are just an example of the abundance that exists, right? The First Songs project, when we began because we recognized that this abundance can be used to leverage, it can be used and leveraged for foundational literacy. And that these songs that are sung to children uh, are safe spaces that we can really, really use for, bridging language learning, bridging home and school languages and early literacy. And one of the most special things about this project that is that it goes beyond preserving culture and language, right? It's not just about celebrating the lullabies, but about celebrating the people who sing these lullabies, the parents, the caregivers, the communities. It's about recognizing that there is this much of abundance that we can use to support our youngest children. And that's how the project began. Now I'd like to hand it over to Zubin to give you a bit of context about the process of collecting the lullabies.
Thanks, Gordon. Hi, everyone. I'm Zubin, and yeah, I'm going to give you a quick insight into the process of this project, what we've managed to collect till today, and the potential journey ahead. So over the past few months, uh, teams across Pratham and our partners have collected over 100 lullabies in 13 languages. And having been through each of these lullabies, I can say that each one brings something special and unique, whether it's in its sound or melody, its vocabulary, or even the themes that it explores. So building this library has been a challenging process, but also a really interesting one. At Pratham, we started by asking a few people from teams across the country to share both audio and video recordings of lullabies from people around Midland. Step forward, the next step was definitely the most challenging and time-consuming part of the. So this step involved recording lullabies without background noise, getting people to write lyrics to match the audio, and finally translating them into English. Which, as you can imagine, with all the poetic language in the lullabies, led to long debates and some very funny and entertaining translation moments. So the next step, step 5, involves the creation of lyric videos to bring these lullabies to life. So we're just going to show you.
রাজ ঘুরাতে ময়না উঠিবা পক্ষীরে দেখলৈ ঢাপলি মেলিবা
હિરના હિંચકે ઝૂલો મારા કાનુડા હિરના હિંચકે ઝૂલો મારા કાનુડા
अल्लड़ बल्लड़ बावेदा बाबा कनक ले आवेगा हाँ जी हाँ बाबा कनक ले आवेगा हाँ जी हाँ बाबा कनक ले आवेगा
ఆరారో అరిరరో తాతాడిచారో సామంది పుచ్చెండాలే ఆరారో అరిరరో.
So as you would have seen in the video, same language subtitles are being added to each video. While SLS might seem like a small feature, it can have a big impact while also preserving songs and connections to Indian languages for future generations. So we spent some time thinking of how Sorry, I think I'm having connection. So for the audio recordings, we spent some time thinking about how to produce them in an exciting video form. As part of this process, we organized an AI art jam AI art jam workshop where people from different organizations across India joined us to explore AI tools to create visuals inspired by some of the lullabies. And as you can see from the visuals here, this was a really fun part of the process. We tried the following AI tools: ChatGPT, Design, Leonardo AI, Canva, and you can go and try them on your own too. We've also experimented and are experimenting with AI video tools. So we'll show you a short video clip here of a video made with an AI video tool.
जो जो रे बाळा चिमण्या वेलाळा, जो जो रे बाळा चिमण्या वेलाळा, हलवे ते मी सोनुल्याला गोजिऱ्या नव्या पाहुण्याला, नव्या पाहुण्याला, गोजिऱ्या नव्या पाहुण्याला, नव्या पाहुण्याला, गोजिऱ्या नव्या पाहुण्याला, नव्या पाहुण्याला.
Hey, Zubin, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yeah, so yeah, as you can see with that video and examples we've shared, there's a lot more that we're still working on and excited about. So for this phase one, we are thinking of creating a toolkit, piloting some lullabies, and running a social media campaign. Phase two would then involve using these lullabies in the program, and then phase three would move towards celebrating the series of lullaby videos that we collect. So yeah, overall, it's been a really interesting journey, and it feels great, if a bit strange, to be here at this point. Thanks. Over to you, Varun.
Thanks, Zubin. Yeah, we've come quite a long way since Children's Day of 2023, and I can't believe that we've got up 100 lullabies in languages that we never even expected. But I think one of the most beautiful aspects of the project that we're doing is also the research that supports this, right? Singing to children is central to their language learning, and this is because children learn words or language through rhythm and tone rather than individual sounds. And this is research that has been led by Professor Usha Goswami, who we're going to be having as part of our next session. So I'd like to introduce everyone to her. Professor Usha Goswami is a professor of cognitive developmental neuroscience at the University of Cambridge and a fellow of St. John's College in Cambridge. She is also the founding director of the Center for Neuroscience and Education. After training as a primary school teacher, Usha decided to pursue research in child psychology. Her core interests are the neural mechanisms underpinning language acquisition, including relationships to the rhythmic structure of infant and child-directed speech, and the brain basis of dyslexia and speech and language difficulties. She's researching the potential utility of assistive listening technology and brain-computer interfaces to improve phonological learning by children, coupled with music and rhythm-based behavioral interventions. Professor Usha Goswami is also the 2019 Yidan Prize winner for education research. It's really good to have you with us, Professor. And we're really looking forward to the insights from your research. So over to you.
So thank you very much, Varun. It's an absolute honor to be here. I think your project is of fundamental importance. I've been interested in the role of rhythm and song in children's language learning for a long time. And I've shown that it does link to later literacy as well as to language skills. So as we've just got a short time today, I'll just tell you about one of our projects in detail, which was our Baby Rhythm project, where we followed 120 infants who were growing up in Cambridge from the age of 2 months And we looked at how their brains responded to their mums singing to them first songs, which for the English scene are nursery rhymes. So I'll share my presentation with you now. Can everybody see that? Oops.
Yes, Professor. Yeah.
It's not at the beginning though. Here's the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and I have a pointer there. Can people see that?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay. So you can see from this little chap that we had set up for our infants where they were also drumming along so that they could make motor responses or reflect the beat in their own body. And we already saw in a number of your videos of the mothers singing how they would also register the beat both through their body as well as their voice. And I think that's a very important aspect developmentally for babies, to feel the rhythm as well as hear the rhythm. And the reason it seems to be so important to have rhythm in your repertoire for learning language is because speech is actually quasi-rhythmic. Because when we're speaking, the way in which our jaw and the sound coming out operates is always going to be opening and closing. There's a rhythm there already, which means that the sound waves we're creating when we're speaking, we're pushing energy through the air. That has a rhythmic component that is received by the brain of the listener. And this rhythmic energy patterning in the sound wave of speech is known to be tracked from the very beginning by the infant brain. In fact, even in the last 3 months in the womb, the infant's brain can hear rhythm patterns from their mother speaking. It's like if you were in a swimming pool and underwater, although you wouldn't hear everything someone was saying, you would still hear some basic rhythm pattern. So this ability of the baby's brain to track rhythm structures seems to underpin language acquisition across languages. So here's the example of our project. We had 122 babies who wore these head caps, which were basically measuring brain electrical signaling. And they wore those head caps while they were listening either to somebody singing nursery rhymes. So this is an example of a lady who was singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." She was also just rhythmically saying a syllable, which was tar, tar, tar. And the babies also heard a drum beat. So that was a non-speech rhythm. They just heard tap, tap, while they were watching these videos, and we recorded their brain's responses. And what we found was that the neural timing in which, this is basically a representation of the brain's electrical responding to the tar sound and to the drum beat. These are just the different frequencies in the signal. So this is a slower brain response and this is a faster brain response. But you can see that in general, babies' brains were on the beat. And actually we found from the earliest measurements, which were at 2 months, that the precision with which their brain was registering this beat structure, just even for a drum beat, was a significant predictor of individual differences. When we followed them up when they were 2 and 3 years old, we were measuring things like their vocabulary and their phonology, which is the sound structure of speech. So phonology is basically all the different sounds in speech, the syllables, the rhythm patterns, the individual sounds that will match to letters when you learn to read. That precision of rhythmic timing was predicting individual differences in language learning. For the nursery rhymes, where they were listening to, a live, a natural speech input, we were able to measure how accurately their brain could track these rhythm structures. And I'll show you how in a minute, but basically, again, we found that there were individual differences, with the more accurate tracking predicting enhanced vocabulary later on and enhanced phonological abilities. So things like repeating words. So this is an example of the brain measurement. So here we've got the actual stimulus, which is the song. This is someone singing a lullaby. And this is the brain response in real time, matching that lullaby. And this is the correlation or the relationship, the accuracy for an infant. And this is the accuracy for an adult who is listening to that same lullaby. So it's the same lullaby. And you can see that they're actually equivalent. So it means that from very early on, for these slowest rhythm structures, which are roughly 120 beats a minute, which is actually the beat rate that we naturally use when we sing across languages, these babies' brains were doing a very good job at tracking that beat rate. And individual differences in how accurate the tracking was, again, predicted later language outcomes. So what I'm showing you here is a modeling of the energy structure of speech. This is actually now someone just talking in infant-directed speech, so they're not singing. But you can see these big blobs, these big red blobs, they're the energy in the sound wave that you're producing as you communicate. And this is the slowest rate of 120 beats a minute. And then you can see that there are other blobs nested in a slightly faster rate, around 4 times a second, or 300 beats a minute. And that is nested in, so it's systematically related to these bigger beats. And that's what we could hear in a number of those lullabies that you showed earlier, that whatever the language, there'd be a slower beat that the mother was singing to, and sometimes she'd put in something faster. And this is all represented in the speech signal received by the baby's brain. Whereas the really fast information that you need for speech sound learning, like that would match to alphabetic letters, that's not really so present early on. And what that means is that actually one rhythmic cycle that you're producing as you enunciate your song can give information to the different phonological units. So this is slightly complex, but basically somebody is just singing, Mary, Mary, quite contrary. And inside that signal, there's your beat rate of Mary, Mary. Then there's other modulations that the brain can pick up, but that you have to show through this special modeling technique, in which you're either matching these peaks in energy, or the trough here is matched by another peak. And that's giving you a different level of phonology. So this is giving you the stress syllable patterns, this Mary. And then this is giving you the fact that Mary has 2 syllables, Mary. And then you get a faster beat rate again. This is in the speech signal. And that basically maps to these, as it were, first sounds of syllables, like the M and the R in Mary. And what's very interesting is that these rhythms in speech are matched by rhythms in the brain. So these are just the names of the brain rhythms, but these are found across the brain, but in auditory brain areas and in motor brain areas, so movement areas. These are the dominant rhythmic rates that the brain responds at, and these are all there in the speech signal. It's just that when we're trying to listen, because our brain is matching everything together, we're not aware that this is happening. But it means that every time you sing to a baby, you've got these 3 very important rates timed perfectly with each other. So this is an English example, but this would work for any language, because all languages use syllable stress alternation to create meaning, because we don't speak like a robot. We don't speak all art, both. We go up and down, up and down. That's natural speech. And of course, it's even more exaggerated when you sing. But these brain rhythms at roughly twice a second or 120 beats a minute are giving you stress syllable placement, like the ga in garden. The slightly faster rate is giving you where the individual syllables are. And then the faster again rate is giving you these so-called onsets for the syllable. Onset rhyme means you divide at the vowel. And this seems to be characteristic of all the languages we've analysed so far. Now, we have not yet analysed any Indian languages, but we have analysed languages that are supposed to be from the 3 different rhythm types that characterise human language. Stress-timed rhythms like English, syllable-timed rhythms like Spanish, and Maraic rhythm, which characterises Japanese. And you find this same underlying structure in the speech signal in all of these languages. So the crucial thing we've shown with the baby rhythm study is that you need all this rhythmic synchronicity to be in time, in the brain, to get that very accurate representation of speech. So this is just a metaphor for that everybody has to be on time, on the beat when they're dancing in Irish dancing. But your brain, the networks in your brain that are interested in this beat have to be on time. So do these networks, so do these networks. And they've all got to be systematically related to each other. And what we've found in terms of reading acquisition is that when this top rate, this 120 beats a minute that we find across human languages for lullaby singing, When that is slightly out of time in the brain response, that seems to characterize children who have a real struggle learning to read, children who have dyslexia. So I'm not talking about my dyslexia research today, but we have shown quite a profound rhythm problem in children who struggle to learn to read. And one of the best ways to try and overcome that problem is to use music and motor activities to emphasize speech rhythm, just as when you're doing music and singing, when you're doing clapping games or playing bongo drums or doing poetry out loud. All of these rhythmic language experiences, particularly if you can match them to motor experience. So you've got to match the language rhythm to a motor rhythm, which parents are doing naturally. Even when you're singing to your baby, you're often jiggling them in time to the beat. These are fundamental to preparing the brain to learn language. And singing to babies is so important because actually it helps the brain, first of all, lock on to these different rhythms that are so important. But secondly, when you're singing, you're automatically timing yourself to either an internal beat or to music, which means that that hierarchy of energy changes in the speech signal is perfectly aligned, which should support early learning. So it should help train these neural rhythms that are at the basis of language learning. And that's my presentation.
Thanks, Professor. Okay, I really love this. What I picked up from this is that we've definitely got to have more musical experiences with our kids.
Completely.
Right? But one thing I'm really curious about, right? So I would like to do a small little activity with you. I'm going to play you one of the lullabies that we've collected. And if you could just tell me, what exactly is the baby picking up here? How exactly is the child learning language? I just want to connect your research to something tangible, right? So would love your inputs on that. Just give me a minute to share my sound. Okay, I'm going to share this.
ढुकुलु ढाकुलु छुम 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 खेलिबा आशा छम 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 ढुकुलु ढाकुलु छुम 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 खेलिबा आशा छम 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 ई घर मोर सरग पुर ई घर मोर सरग पुर ई घर रामु कुनी ठाकुरा ई घर रामु कुनी ठाकुरा ढुकुलु ढाकुलु छुम 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 खेलिबा आशा छम 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 ढुकुलु ढाकुलु छुम 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 खेलिबा आशा छम छम छम.
So
well,
yeah,
that's a very nice example, isn't it? Because you could hear at least 3 different beat rates.
Yeah.
Even in the way she was changing her singing. So it was as though she started quite slow so the infant could tune in, and then she would add a layer of complexity, and then she'd go back to the slower bit, and then she'd add a different layer, and then she'd go back to the slow bit. So one of the key things for language learning is prediction of what's coming next. So all these lullabies and early songs, they usually have a lot of repetition. And that's, again, hugely important because the baby's listening and then they can start predicting what's coming next. And we all know that, toddlers and young children, they love doing things again and again and again. And that's because it really supports learning. It stamps in these neural responses that you need if you're going to be able to predict your environment in terms of your language environment. So I thought that was a lovely example because it had complexity and simplicity. And that's what nearly all these lullabies you've collected seem to have, that whichever the language, they're emphasizing something important for that language, but they're also adding in some extra stuff that the infant can kind of attach itself to and use as a scaffold for learning the rest of the sounds.
Okay, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Professor. Really insightful. And I'm sure folks will have questions for you, so we'll save that for the end and we'll bring it in towards the end. We'll now move into the next part of the session where we have an August panel with us for a lovely panel discussion. We have Dr. Rukmini Banerji, and I'm going to introduce all of them. Dr. Rukmini Banerji is the Chief Executive Officer of Pratham Education Foundation. She has extensive field experience working directly with rural and urban communities, as well as in designing and implementing large-scale partnerships with governments for improving learning of children. From 2005 to 2014, she led Pratham's research and assessment efforts, including the well-known ASAR initiative, the Annual Status of Education Report. In 2021, Dr. Banerji was awarded the Yidan Prize for Education Development. So we have two Yidan Prize laureates over here, which makes this celebration extremely more special. Another fun fact about Dr. Rukmini is that she writes frequently on education in both Hindi and English and enjoys creating stories for children. Dr. Brij Kothari is the founder of Billion Readers. He leads the Billion Readers initiative and is on the faculty of IIT Delhi's School of Public Policy. He innovated the idea of same-language subtitling on mainstream content on TV, films, and streaming platforms to ensure lifelong reading practice and improvement for 1 billion viewers in India. Bill Clinton called SLS a small thing that has a staggering impact on people's lives. Brij is the recipient of International Literacy Prize from the US Library of Congress. He also has a PhD in education and a master's in communication from Cornell University. He founded Planet Read and Bookbox as a Stanford Digital Vision Fellow, committed to scalable solutions for reading, language learning, and media access. And we have Deepika Mughal-Shetty, who is going to be moderating the panel. Deepika is the Chief of Policy and Partnerships and part of the leadership team at AkeStep Foundation since its inception in 2015. At AkeStep, she leads the foundation's work on early years, leveraging the power of networks and narratives to bring focus and attention to the growth and development of children in the early years through the Bachpan Manao initiative, which has been seeded by AkeStep Foundation. She is also involved in diverse projects associated with the creation and adoption of digital public goods and digital public infrastructure. Deepika, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Varun.
And we're going to spotlight the speakers too.
Thank you, Varun. This was so much fun. I mean, I just found myself getting drawn into the conversation that it was so much fun because I was getting drawn into the visuals and the brain maps. And then I found myself like nodding my head to the rhythms that the songs were playing. And it was just really, it was fun. But welcome everybody. I just want to kind of get us going, Rukmini and Brij, with a very simple question. What do lullabies mean to you? I mean, Rukmini, if you want to go first, and then Brij, what do lullabies mean to you, and why are we doing this?
Actually, since you guys announced this and you've been collecting these stories, I've been probably thinking more about lullabies than I normally do. But the minute I hear lullabies, particularly in Bangla, I think of I was brought up by my grandmother, so I immediately think of her. And I can almost not just hear her voice, but I can almost feel her as well. And I forget that I'm as old as I am, and I can kind of almost transport myself back to when I can hear her singing. And I also remember that sometimes she would fall asleep as she was singing to me, and then I would really have a good time and laugh.
That's the beauty of the whole conversation, right? Because it's an act of care, and it's possible for anyone to do. And it's so inherent in us, and the power of it in the way that Dr. Goswami described it, and the building block it is for the future of acquisition of language is a whole thing by itself. But ultimately, when it begins, it's just an act of care. Brij, your turn, really.
Well, firstly, thank you. This is a really fun discussion. This morning I asked my brothers if they could just tell me which lullaby they remember and who sang to them. And what was interesting to me was that I was also thinking, what did I sing to my own children? And let's see if there's a match somewhere. And what I found interestingly is that the lullaby I had in my mind
which I sang to my own children, is the exact same lullaby that my brothers mentioned, which kind of implied to me, now this is a sample of 3 people. So it implied to me that it is intergenerational. My mom sang to my brothers the same lullaby, and I also, without consciously thinking about it, sang the exact same lullaby. So it's definitely continuity for me, emotional continuity. And it's something I had never thought of, only because of this panel that I'm starting to think a little bit more about what it means intergenerationally also. And also, then I also asked my nephews, etc., what they remember. And what is a pattern, of course, is that everyone remembers mothers singing lullabies, and some fathers singing lullabies. So it's not entirely, but it's primarily mothers that are singing, and that's an interesting thing. And of course, my mind immediately went to the research mode a little bit, and I try to think about what is going on in terms of lullaby representation on YouTube, etc. And it's true, it's mothers singing mostly to children. So there are several interesting things, but of course the emotional aspect is something that is very deep. And by the way, just before I end, on this note, I asked my team just today, that same lullaby that I sang to my children and my mom sang to me, if they could quickly go and subtitle it in 2 hours. So here it is. I'm sharing that link of that lullaby. So happens to be from a film. And I never knew that 1952 film. And what's interesting is that cinema has played a crazy role in the lullabies we're singing, probably. Again, all these are very early hypotheses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the other interesting bits, right? Something comes from the family, something comes from outside, and sometimes you sing in languages you don't know. And all of these actually matter very little for the child, perhaps, because in the end, it's about the rhythm and the repetition, as it turns out. So that, I think, is incredibly powerful about the possibilities that this whole project has. But one thing I want to say is the moment we mention the First Songs project to anyone, there is just a very palpable sense of, first they smile, then there is this excitement saying, hey, what are you doing? How can we be part of it? We'd like to see what you do with it. Those kinds of questions. Now, but all of this started with a conversation such as this. And it was between us, Brij. I want to ask you, and very short because we have a lot more things to talk about. I want to ask you, what prompted that seed that helped us kind of ask this question, saying, can we collect lullabies in different languages? And very importantly, can we collect it in such a way that we are able to create same language subtitles so people can learn them more? That is the essence of the seed of this project. It wasn't about collecting. It's about collecting in the authentic voice of the person singing and them singing, and at the same time using that to create same language subtitles. Now, where did that come from? That thought, that original thought in your head?
You know, I think it was at the Ecosystem Collective that, Center for Exponential Change and others had organized.
We had already done this before.
Oh, it was even before that.
It was a year before that. We were in a con. We started this in 23, my friend.
Okay. Well, maybe then you should tell us where it was exactly.
It was exactly like this. It was an online conversation like this, where we're saying, what can we do? And what can be the starting point for some kind of a collaborative action as part of the larger Bachpan Manao ecosystem? And this was in November. Children's Day was coming up. We said, let's do something. And in that sort of shooting the breeze, as it were, it came up saying, you know what are the first things children listen to? Their songs. And then you said lullabies. It would be so nice to have lullabies. And Nirav, who's here, jumped right on it. And next thing you know, we had a team working on, say, we didn't know how to collect. We didn't know what to do. And there were these million questions. And this is where I would bring in Rukmini. the appropriateness or the inappropriateness of lullabies is always a question that comes up in every conversation. Because some of it, just in terms of language, may not be, completely correct politically. Does that matter?
I'm not the right person to say whether it matters or not, but I think there is. I mean, again, I was thinking about Bengali lullabies. Even though I'm not a very good Bengali speaker as an adult, my entire memory of lullabies is all in Bangla. And the ones that immediately jump out, I remember there was some time the last few years where we were trying to collect actually songs and stories for children. And the first two that I thought of that are very common, and I didn't think of it. I mean, almost anybody who speaks Bangla will know it. Where I think they fall in that category about not sure, how to translate it. So sometimes I feel, why translate? Just enjoy the sound, enjoy the music, and enjoy the memories. So the Bangla one is called Bishti Pore Tapur Tupur Node Elo Ban Shiv Thakurer Biye Hobe Teen Konne Dan. So it's raining. Lord Shiva is going to marry 3 women. Akkonne Raden Baren, one of them cooks. Akkonne Khan, one of them eats. And Akkonne Goshakure Bapir Bari Jan. And the third one gets very angry and goes off to her parents' home. Now, this is a very common rhyme. I'm sure there have been lots of analysis of it, but it's the first one that pops into your head every time it rains. And then in my head, I almost see Shiv Thakur in a little boat, and with his 3 so-called wives jumping off the boat, one to eat, one to cook, and one to go off. So I think that probably this is all a piece of imagination, that when you sing it, you think of different things. Whether it's appropriate, inappropriate, that's all, to be debated. But they all bring out a certain, I cannot see rain without the first rain of the season without thinking of this song, which must be the first rain song that I ever heard. Right? So Bangla has lots of these. There are, well-known ones about how, and sometimes the topics are also not particularly childlike. There's one which says, Poka gumolo, pada jurolo. So baby is going to sleep, the whole mohalla is going to sleep. Borgi elo deshe. Borgi is Marathas. Bulbulite dhan kheche, khajna debo kishe. So it's all about Marathas coming, wanting tax, not a particularly, appropriate topic for a lullaby. But I think this is also probably, I don't know from when it is, it's obviously from the time of the invasions, that when you're singing, you're also thinking, the adult is thinking of things that are in their mind. And probably at that point, there must have been a lot of discussion about how to pay the tax, because the song goes on to say, I'm going to plant lessons. So can you wait till then? Because then maybe I'll be able to pay the tax. So what is it to do with the little boy sleeping? Not clear, but that's the way the song goes.
Yeah. And I want to come back to you later in terms of something that you want to put out as a challenge for this ecosystem, because monsoon is coming and Rukmini has an agenda, and we'll come back to that in a second. Brij, I want to ask you this, right? Same language subtitling. And the importance of here's the beauty of the conversation that we're having. We're not just saying, let me listen to the songs, let me talk about the songs. We're saying, let's think about visuals, let's think about words, let's think about translations, let's think about other people learning these things. It'd be great to bring in your perspective of why all of that is an important component in the way this project has been designed. Not necessarily sacrosanct that it be done the whole time in this way, but the seed, I think, the important component of learning and growing together in some way. If you can just put your thoughts on the table.
Yeah, sure. So just the video that I shared about the lullaby, Chanda Mama Durke, we subtitled it just now. That original one that's on YouTube has 17 million views. Okay. It's an old clip and not very, polished yet. It has that many views. Now, what I'm thinking is that maybe those 17 million views could have actually given 17 million people reading practice at the same time because they would have been interested in the lyrics. It was a missed opportunity, but now we have it, the subtitle version, right? For example, some lullabies out there are in the hundreds of millions of views also. Those are animated lullabies. I think there is a huge opportunity here because there's such an emotional bond with these songs. We have that opportunity to bring it into the early reading space. In schools, I'm not saying through videos, because again, there's a challenge of, when do you introduce how much screen time, etc. But having the first letters being introduced on a song that in the language that which you have an emotional bond, perhaps the letters and the first steps towards reading development need to be taken with lullabies. It's really building on something. And then, of course, the meanings, etc., will all happen at some point. Even today, I was surprised that this particular lullaby that I've been sharing with you, I realized only today at age 61 what some of the words were. I was just doing the sounds and some of them wrong. But it didn't matter because it was rhythmical and it probably still helped in our reading development. So there's a lot here to unpack. And the two things that Rukmini's work has really contributed to tremendously is of course the reports that we have a challenge, 23% in class 3 not being able to read at class 2 level, right? So somewhere early reading, we need something to go on that is more culturally very close. The other challenge is language bridging. About a third of children, the home language is different from the school language. Now, lullabies are a perfect place to actually create very interestingly and innovatively those bridges. Mixing of the language, code switching, all of that can happen as you go with the lullaby. Can I have, for example, a lullaby in Bhojpuri, that's my home language, moving to Hindi, suddenly getting mixed into different levels of Hindi. And that's a transition I've made with the same song, for example.
Yeah, there are a bunch of ideas there, and I'm very mindful of time. And Varun has definitely indicated that I should move faster, but I'm going to ask you the last question, each of you. And in terms of what's your wish for this project in terms of the roadmap and the journey? And especially if I were to frame it like this, right? If every child could hear 100 songs before they were 3, how could we make that happen? Should we try to make that happen? And who needs to get behind something like that? I mean, this is just a random, it will be 100 songs before 3. You can change the framing, you can change the numbers, you can change everything. But it's something to kind of, rally behind as a thought.
I think it's a wonderful thought. Probably children do hear 100 songs before they are 3, but I wonder what is the variety that they hear, because you often hear it from the same people. And as I'm seeing, and I was talking to my colleagues today, that often with this big migration happening, young mothers are often going to YouTube to find the songs as opposed to hearing them from their own. I had a very interesting incident once in a village in UP, where it was not small children, it was sort of primary school children. And I had a couple of colleagues from Gujarat. And to get the crowd going, we said, let's sing a song. And obviously the young people from Gujarat began to sing a Gujarati song. So I sort of stepped in and I said to my Gujarati colleagues, "Ki aap Hindi mein gana gao." And the village crowd that was there said, नहीं, हमने ऐसे गाने कभी सुने नहीं है, तो उनको गाने दीजिए ना, क्योंकि नहीं तो हम कहाँ से सुनेंगे गुजरात के गाने. So I think that this, why my wish list will be not only that children hear many, many songs, but you should actually open your mind and eyes to songs of everywhere, because the sounds are different, the rhythms are different, even the video clips that you just showed at the beginning, and I think, Brij, the subtitling helped, because you were kind of following it all. And thanks to Usha, we were thinking about the rhythm and there's so much in all of this that I think what Deepika we need to do is to have a huge, easy to get to repository and keep it all out there so that very easily why 17 million, 100 million can go and look and hear and see and find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brij?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that the same language subtitles get the adults involved. Because we now know the lyrics, we now want to sing along, etc. But look, there are about 1,400 odd mother tongues in the country, and probably there's many lullabies on each of these languages. That's the first task, I think, at a national level we could potentially document, if that's and document it in a way that it's not just a repository, but it's an active repository where we're constantly bringing it into the preschools, into the early reading programs, etc. Right? And documenting it in very creative ways. And I'm not saying only screens, etc. Actually mandali, singing those lullabies, etc. That's one, I would say. Then creating, we already talked about the language bridges, have a competition. What could be that kind of a bridge from home language to the school language? That would be exciting. The other third idea I want to throw out there is that, look, celebrities have that kind of power to also contribute in these cases, right? So can we have, for example, celebs in any field, right? I'm not saying only actors, cricketers, but it could be anyone. Singing lullabies, making that out there available in the public. It would be, I just heard that Alia Bhatt and Ranbir Kapoor sing a Malayalam lullaby to their child because their nanny sang in Malayalam. And now Ranbir Kapoor sings in Malayalam. Now it may be the most trivial fact for many of us here, academics, but it's the fact that actually gets people to get excited about lullabies. Now, could they be singing a Malayalam lullaby? I mean, why not? Why?
To add to this, Deepika, I know we are running out of time. There was a time, and I think it was maybe, 20 years ago, when Nitish Kumar was first the chief minister of Bihar, where he used to visit Anganwadis a lot. So he learned all the Anganwadi songs. Because of that, many government officials learned Anganwadi songs because he would go into an Anganwadi and start singing. So I really think that, singing songs of children by as many people as possible and in as many ways just popularizes the fact that this is a really fun and important to do. Yeah.
I think two things which are sticking out for me through this whole conversation and this project, right? Just by virtue of saying first songs and lullabies, we're all suddenly paying attention to it. And once it's in your head, it's constantly playing in your head in different ways. You're thinking about it, let me check on it, how many songs, what's my childhood song, things that Brij did. And at the same time, the other bits which I'm taking away literally as a challenge for the rest of the team, listen carefully, Varun, Zubin, and Anusha, and Nirav, is get a diverse group of adults who are well known in the world to sing some of these songs and perhaps sing them in languages they don't know.
Yeah.
And that's not their own. And maybe that could be literally the next step out of this for this group and community as an action item, because what has evolved is a community project, right? We're all sort of stepping in and doing our two bits to get it to this point. This is your moment, Rukmini. Do you want to put the challenge out?
So this is something that I've been meaning to do for a long time and haven't. A little story. There was one of my cousin's mother-in-law was quite ill and she was lying in bed and she was fed up with life. And we couldn't convince her otherwise. And then I was there, and there is a very, very well-known animation person called Nina Sabnani. And I started talking to Nina about the fact that it was monsoon time in Bombay, that maybe we should do a collection of monsoon songs for children. So Nina said, why don't you find the songs and I'll illustrate them? And through all of this, the elderly lady sat up in bed and said, why aren't you talking to me? I want to be part of this as well. So we've always thought that we should release a book like this on her birthday. She's no longer with us. But every July, I feel a huge guilt that I haven't actually gone forward on this project. So please, guys, can you help me? One rain song from at least 10 languages, if we can put together quickly. It's only May, not even 15th now. Her birthday is in the beginning of July. I don't know where Nina is, whether she still wants to do this, but it would be lovely to do.
Yes,
That might
done.
be just a milestone for you to do this. Book coming out of forward, we can connect it to Usha, Dr. Professor Goswami's thinking. An illustrator apparently an animator is already there who could potentially do this. On that note, I think, thank you so much. It has been indeed an incredible pleasure being on this journey with you guys.
Thank you, Brij. Thank you, Rukmini, and thank you, Deepika. Challenge accepted. We are definitely going for this. Lovely. That was a lovely panel. And, it definitely brought to mind, at least, Brij, when you shared how when you sing or listen to songs, you just pick up random words, right? I remember just listening to Hindi songs and learning Hindi like that. So I see how it has so much value. We're going to move on to the next session. It's a really fun one. We have two lovely musicians with us, Gurupriya Atreya and Vedanth Bharadwaj, who will take us through a lullaby workshop. Let me give you a short introduction about them. Vedanth Bharadwaj is a multifaceted musician who dabbles in several genres of music. He sings the time-bending lyrics written by mystic poets from Bhakti, Sufi, and folk traditions, while accompanying himself on the guitar and banjo. He started his journey in Indian classical music at the age of 4, went on to learn Western classical music, and is currently a disciple of Sri Ramamurthy Rao. Vedant composes music for dance theatre, Indian and foreign feature films, ads, documentaries, albums, and is a much sought-after sound designer. After scoring music for the blockbuster Tamil feature film Aruvi, he debuted in Hollywood as a music composer for the musical His Father's Voice. Vedant loves working with children and is one of the directors of the Chennai Children's Choir, a choir of children from economically challenged backgrounds. They represented India at the Serenade Choral Festival at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And Vedant hopes to spread love and peace in this world through his music. Gurupriya Atreya is a singer, composer, voice artist, and an arts curator. Trained in Indian classical music since her childhood, she is currently a disciple of Ustad Fayaz Khan. Staying rooted in the classical and semi-classical music traditions, she lends her voice to singing playback for films, commercial jingles, and voiceovers. As a composer, educator, and facilitator, Gurupriya has worked with various dance companies, schools, and productions. Through her projects such as the Living Room Kacheri, Sing a Lullaby, and the Arts Practitioner Certificate Program, she dreams of making a difference by bringing large groups of people, communities, and cultures together to form an inclusive society at large. I'd like to give you a little bit of context about their Sing a Lullaby project because it's a really beautiful one. Gurupriya and Vedant started this project at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, which basically became a year-long online workshop series. Both of them collected, researched, and shared 52 lullabies in 38 languages from across India and the world. And they've started taking these lullabies to a larger cross-section of people through live concerts and workshops. They're using it as a tool to build community, cultivate harmony, and embrace healing. So we're very grateful to have you all. We're really looking forward to this workshop. So over to you all.
Thank you so much, Varun. It's really lovely to see what y'all have been doing along with first songs, and it's really beautiful. You'll have a great collection of lullabies now from all over India, and it's really lovely to be part of this evening. And hello to everybody who's here, who's joined us, and hi, Gurupriya.
Hi. Hi, everybody. It actually just takes me and Vedant also back to exactly what we did through that year, the entire conversation that you all have been having, the panel discussion, and a couple of things that Rukmini ma'am also shared. about so reminds us of the through our research work in that year, in the year of COVID-19, and researching these lullabies, those stories, and how she spoke about her grandmother falling asleep while singing to her. All of these stories emerge in those lullabies, so it is very nostalgic for us to revisit that time. So today we'll be teaching you a very short lullaby, which Vedant will begin. We'll share the lullaby first, we'll sing it, we'll go over the meaning, and we'll sing to each other, we'll teach each other, and you all can repeat this on your respective screens.
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো, খাট নাই পালং নাই বাচার খাটে বসো। ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো, খাট নাই পালং নাই বাচার খাটে বসো। বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও, বাছার চোখে ঘুম নাই ঘুম দিয়ে যেও। বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও, বাছার চোখে ঘুম নাই ঘুম দিয়ে যেও, ঘুম দিয়ে যেও, ঘুম দিয়ে যেও। So quickly running through the meaning of the song, Ghum in Bengali means to sleep. So Ghum Jao means go to sleep, be lost in the world of sleep. And Ghum Parani Mashi Pishi Moder Bari Esho. So this young mother is inviting the aunts of her child, that is the child's Perima, Attei, home, and saying, please come home and make my baby sleep. Moder bari esho, khat nai palong nai, there's no bed, there's no seat for you to sit on. Bachar khate bosho, sit on the baby's bed. Bata bhora pan debo, I'll give you a box full of pan. Gal bhore kheo, fill your mouth with it and eat it. Bachar chokhe ghum nai, chokhe is eyes, so my baby doesn't have any sleep in her eyes. Ghum diye jeo, so make her sleep and go so that I can sleep.
And this is true to every household, right? When you have a guest, especially a relative, if it's your sister or your sister-in-law or a close friend, you just want some rest to your hands. Like you're tired of carrying the infant, or in fact, we always feel this is such a sweet lullaby, but the underlying meaning also, there is a gentle reminder to ask for help. Ask for that help when you're tired. Ask for that help when you want to catch some sleep. Ask someone to just keep the baby and get that shut eye. So, yeah.
And this is also a lullaby which is passed down through folk and oral tradition. Nobody knows who has written this song, but it's just passed down through oral tradition. And lullabies for us, as being musicians, when we approach a lullaby, we look at it as the first genre in music that has ever been made. So nothing can be older than a mother putting a baby to sleep. So though we dabble in multiple genres and everything, lullabies are very, very special to both Gurupriya and I. For several years, we've been having this plan of making lullabies together, and and of course, as Varun had mentioned, during the COVID lockdown, we started the Single Lullaby workshop, and that was online like this. So what we did then was that every week we would come up with a new lullaby and send the meaning like this, and then we'd sing the song, and then we'd repeat one after the other. So now Gurupriya will lead, and I will repeat, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And you all can all be on mute, but you all can sing along with me so that you all can learn the song. We can all learn the song together. And when we learn a new song, just as Rukmini ji said, it's always approach a new language like approaching a friend, with compassion, with love, with interest of knowing what the other person is. So approach this language, Bengali, Bangla, with the same interest, the same compassion, love, and let's try and learn this song together.
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি
মোদের বাড়ি এসো
মোদের বাড়ি এসো
খাট নাই পালক নাই
খাট নাই পালং নাই
বাচার খাটে বসো
বাচার খাটে বসো
We'll go over it again.
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো
খাট নাই পালক নাই বাচার খাটে বসো
খাট নাই পালং নাই বাচার খাটে বসো
বাটা ভরা
বাটা ভরা
পান দেব
পান দেব
গাল ভরে খেও
গাল ভরে খেও
বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও
বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও
বাচ্চার চোখে ঘুম নাই
বাচার চোখে ঘুম নাই
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
বাচ্চার চোখে ঘুম নাই
বাচার চোখে ঘুম নাই
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
Shall we sing it once more from the top? One last time? Yeah?
Yeah.
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো
ঘুম পাড়ানি মাসি পিসি মোদের বাড়ি এসো
খাট নাই পালক নাই বাচার খাটে বসো
খাট নাই পালং নাই বাচার খাটে বসো
বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও
বাটা ভরা পান দেব গাল ভরে খেও
বাচার চোখে ঘুম নাই ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
বাচ্চার চোখে ঘুম নাই ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
ঘুম দিয়ে যেও
We picked
Wow.
a really short and sweet one, so we keep up with time.
Yes.
Do you want Vedant to sing it once from the top? Are you all good with this? We can send you a recording.
Yes. No, do share a recording with us, Vedant and Gurupriya. Thank you so
Definitely.
much. This was really, really lovely. Your voices are beautiful. Really, really took us to just another place. And it was lovely to see different versions of lyrics also coming in the chat. Everyone was sharing different versions of it. So it was just It's
That's
just
the
beautiful,
beauty
with
of
one
folk
tune.
songs, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of folk songs because oral tradition, nothing written down, so it's like just passed down with
Chinese
whatever
whispers.
everyone is used to, singing. And according to the area they're from, you learn so much of anthropology
Yeah.
through folk songs. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so anthropological. It's really beautiful. Thank you for all the comments and thank you again for inviting us to be part of this.
Thanks, Vedant. Thanks, Gurupriya.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
And now we're moving to the launch of the microsite, which is what we're all here for. Anusha, if you could take us through this.
Yes, let me just share the screen again. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible, Anusha.
Okay, so, okay. Hi everyone, I'm Anusha and I'm part of the team that created the first song's microsite. So I'm so happy to give you a quick tour of the digital home we've made for this first songs project. So as you see, we've landed on the home page and we have a little intro talking about the what the site has to offer. So we have a treasury of lullabies from across India, and the homepage basically is a quick summary of the different sections of the website. So we have a little button here which you can click to explore lullabies, a few recording guidelines should you choose to record and submit a lullaby to us, and then a video gallery. So let me go one by one. So let's explore some lullabies. So clicking explore takes you to the lullaby gallery. So this is really the heart of the website. This is going to be a growing gallery and archive of all the lullaby recordings that we've collected. So here we have a few video samples. So you click this, it'll take you to a player. So yeah, you can explore the lullabies here. Click around for the other videos, explore more videos. And below this, we have the master list of all the recordings that we've collected. So you can see we've got Hindi lullabies, Gujarati lullabies, Kannada, lullabies from Bihar, Pahadi, Odia language, Marathi. It just goes to show that, when I first thought, okay, Indian lullabies, I've hardly heard, any lullabies beyond, say, maybe Hindi, or since I grew up in Pune, I've heard, Yere Yere Pausa. Somebody mentioned that in the chat. So, like, this just shows how vast the actual collection of lullabies can get. And I'm sure there are more. And Brij mentioned that there are, 1,000 odd dialects in the country. So just imagine what this archive can grow into. So these are the samples we've worked on so far, and we're working on, creating videos and SLSing all these lullabies. So it's really a work in progress, and soon this section of the website is really going to grow and expand. So that's the gallery. And now, if you would like to submit a lullaby of your own, we have this submission form here. It's a short form that allows us to collect some information about the lullaby, like what's the name of the lullaby, where you recorded it from, what language it's in, and also your contact number and email, because if we have to clarify, say, lyrics or notify you when we've added it to the archive, we can sort of be in touch with you. Another important thing is to read some recording guidelines, because we would like to have nice, good quality recordings. So we have a few pointers here that we'd prefer the video in a horizontal format. some decent lighting, and make sure that there's no background noise. So you can go through these pointers. As for the text submission, it would be of great help if you can also write down the lyrics and tell us a little story about what the lullaby is about, maybe share a short anecdote. Um, Another important thing is consent and identity. So if you're going and recording someone, make sure the person singing is aware that these recordings will be used and produced and find a place in our archive. So just make sure the person's aware of that, and that you have their permission to send us this recording. Then moving on, we have the About page. So the About page tells us about an overview of how this project came to be, what lullabies are about. If you would like to deep dive further into Usha Goswami's research, we have a section on that here. People who are interested in the policy, we have a little section here referring to, the larger picture of where this project is placed. And yeah, that's it. You can contribute to First Songs. You can write to us here. We have our email ID available here if you want to submit a recording or have further questions about how you'd like to contribute. So, I mean, it's a little microsite, so that's pretty much the walkthrough of this website. Go through it at your own pace, and thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Anusha. Big round of applause for us. I'm going to pat myself on the back, and if I was there with you, I'd pat you all too. So we're done with today's session, and we just wanted to say that if there's any way you'd like to contribute, whether it be lullabies, translations, transliterations, meanings of the lullabies, or even want to contribute in creating animations for the lullabies, please contact us. We're always available to talk to you and clarify more, and always ready to have you on board. With this, we will end today's session, and we have 13 minutes for a Q&A. Maybe we could start with, sorry, if Deepika, you muted yourself. No, okay. All right, okay. Then we could just move to Q&A. Reshma, you had asked a question. Would you like to just say it out loud, and then maybe Professor Usha could speak about it?
Sure, Varun, I think Professor Goswami has already mentioned her responses, and I've had follow-up conversations with her. Would you still like me to ask my question again?
Yeah, in case people haven't read it.
So what I was curious to understand was whether it's the baby's brain response changes depending on whether the stimuli comes from a human being singing a lullaby out loud, in a live context, or whether it's a human voice but being played through a digital platform.
Yes, and my answer was that the brain of the infant will still be tracking the digital voice, but they won't necessarily be learning anything linguistic from it. So there was research done where it was on infant-directed speech rather than singing, but infant-directed speech has the same structure, underpinning structure, with these very rhythmic patterns. And they had infants in America being spoken to either in Mandarin Chinese, which they weren't learning, or in English, which they were learning. And the Mandarin Chinese graduate students were interacting with the babies, playing with toys with them, talking always in Mandarin. And then when the babies were 9 months old, it was measured whether their brain had picked up any Mandarin contrasts that aren't present in American English. And actually, half of the babies hadn't had live interaction. What they'd done was watched videos of these same graduate students handing them toys. And, they had exactly the same auditory dialogue environment that the babies with the real people had had. And the babies who just had it through a screen had learned no Mandarin contrasts. It was only the babies who'd had the live interaction. And it seems to be something important about shared gaze. So when you're talking to somebody, you're normally having an online, gaze to gaze, mutual eye contact. And that somehow seems to support the brain's learning. And when you're rocking your infant and singing a lullaby, you're normally looking into their eyes, unless you're just trying to put them to sleep. But that somehow, in a way we don't yet understand, seems to make brains synchronize with each other and support learning. And you cannot synchronize with the brain of an avatar or of an online digital fake AI. And I think that's a hugely important message for early years education generally. We cannot outsource this. It has to be done by people, because the human brain has evolved over millennia to respond to other people. And even though we seem to have these great, AI assistants and so on, that's fine if you're an adult. But when you're a baby starting from the get-go, you still need live people to create your cultural brain.
Thank you, Professor Goswami. That's such a critical difference, as you point out.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Ishma, for that question. Would anyone else like to ask any question to any of the panelists or to Professor or to Gurupriya and Vedant?
I didn't have a question, but I had a request to the people here. I put it on the chat also that mostly lullabies is connected to mother singing, but if it could break the norm and have men's voices, father singing, I sing to my son, so I will definitely share a video of that from my end. But it would be wonderful to have father singing also sharing their videos.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a question for Professor Goswami. And I don't mean this as a joke or anything, but it's a serious question for me. Like, if somebody just doesn't sing in tune,
Mm-hmm.
and you're singing to your child every day, kind of in a not a very good, I guess musically not good tonality, etc. What would you recommend? Because at one level you want the bond, but at another level you also want your child to have good sense of music.
Yeah, the recommendation is to sing anyway. So I am not a good singer, as you probably heard on this interview, but I still sang to my daughter, and it makes a really important difference because you're probably in time with the beat. The melody, whether you're keeping the melody or not, isn't such a big deal for the brain. It's that beat structure, the underlying pulse of the song. We haven't yet looked at whether parents who are really off the beat impede their children's language learning. That is possible, but most people can sing in time really quite well. And the melody itself doesn't seem to be the key. So with our research with children with language disorders, which is our Yidan project actually, we're contrasting doing interventions with both melody and rhythm, so singing up, down, and doing the rhythm, or just having rhythm. And it's the rhythm that matters. The melody doesn't seem to matter. So if you're out of tune, it doesn't matter. And there's also all the other points people have been making about the emotional connection, about the memorability of having, because before we wrote things down, everything was orally transmitted, usually rhythmically. Storytellers were very good at using rhythmic structures to keep their audience's attention and so on. So you'll still be having that important bonding and caring link that we were talking about at the beginning, even if you're off key and slightly out of time. So that there's still value. That would be my view.
That is
I
so
only disagree with one. Sorry,
I'm saying
I
that is
only
so
disagree with
reassuring.
one. Yeah. Sorry. No, I only disagreed with one point, Professor Goswami, that you don't have a good voice.
No, but could I say, I thought your idea of bridging two languages is a fantastic idea, that they can be used because, of course, as you said, many children in India, their native home language isn't the language they have to learn in school. But using songs to bridge is a really, really powerful idea.
No, thank you. And maybe there are, it's probably a longer conversation, but at some point we would love to have inputs on what's the appropriate way to kind of also bridge this, given all the science that's already out there.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Brij. And thank you, Professor. Anyone else? Do you all have any questions at all? We've got 5 more minutes. Or even if you'd like to ask in the chat. Any comments you'd like to share? There are a lot of congratulations to the team, so thank you for that. Deepika, yes, sorry, please
So
go.
also there was, I think the father comment has actually got a lot of, certainly got certain responses because someone, Savika actually said that she would want to get her songs recorded in her father's voice. So maybe that's really the easier bit now to actually go back to your parents and get the father to sing it now as an older parent. There may be something there too. Rukmini?
Varun, while this session has been going on, my colleague Smithin has sent me a video lullaby. I don't know how to share it. Zubin has it as well. I sent it to him, just in case you want to end with a video.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know how to get it to you. Can I, Deepika, if I...
Zubin, do you want to
Zubin,
share?
yeah,
You can
Zubin
share.
can share screen. Yeah.
I can share.
Okay, I will stop sharing. Yeah.
Awesome. Lovely. Then I guess we can listen to this beautiful, and what's a beautiful lullaby. And yeah, this is like a surprise treat. Thank you, Dr. Rukmini.
No, this is your session. This has happened during the session. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
it came while Vedant and Gurupriya was singing. Zubin, are you doing something?
Yeah, he's sharing. Yeah.
Most definitely is. There it is.
You'll have to switch on audio, yeah.
काली चकोरिया ललना के लागे नहीं केहू के नजरिया आव हो चंदा मामा आव हो अजोरिया
I'm contacting Smithin immediately. Lovely. Okay, this is lovely to see. Thank you so much, Dr.
What a
Rukmini.
perfect way to end this conversation, particularly the message at the end. I think that's really just beautiful.
Yeah. So we will end here. Thank you to everyone for taking time off today and being here. Thank you to Professor Usha Goswami for being with us all the way from Cambridge. Dr. Rukmini, Dr. Brij, Deepika, Gurupriya Vedanth. Thank you to everyone. And yes, we've had a lovely session and we've had a lovely year and a half bringing all of this together. We will be closing in a minute. I did see one question, sorry. Just going to see if I can. Is it encouraged to sing to the child while they are still in the womb? And are there studies on the impact of lullabies on children in the womb? Okay.
Yeah.
Professor?
So,
Yeah.
what has been studied is whether children can recognize music that they've heard while they're in the womb when they're born, and they can. So this was actually a study done with neonates whose mothers were watching certain TV programs every single day, and those TV programs had very distinctive theme tunes, and the babies could recognize within hours of birth the theme tune that their mother had been listening from the show the mother was listening compared to a different show that she hadn't been watching. So the fetus is learning some auditory rhythms. So why not sing to your bump? It would be a very bonding thing to do, because when your baby is born, they will probably recognize that's your voice and your lullaby that you'd already sung to them.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, that's beautiful. I think we will end on that note. That's a really, really beautiful thought. Thank you, Professor. Thank you,
I've enjoyed
everyone.
this immensely. Thank
Thank
you.
you. This is
Thank
lovely.
you, everyone. Have a lovely, lovely evening.
Thank you,
We will
everyone.
see you again soon. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
I will.
रंग चढ़े खुद का ही खुद पे बच्चों को तू ऐसे बढ़ा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
रोशन हो ये नन्हे दिए इन्हें तू रोज सजा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
जादू है ये जीने दे जरा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
गिरने दे बढ़ने दे उनको पास आए तो गले भी लगा
बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
नई ये दुनिया नया आसमां
बच्चों को बचपन से ही सिखा
खेलते खेलते साथ निभा
ऐसे तो उनका जीवन सजा
ये बचपन है त्योहार हर दिन का ये पहचान ले और रोज मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना अरे अब तो मना ले यारा